Digestible listeners, and welcome back to the Digestible Podcast, where we give you all the health and wellness information that you need in an amount of time that your busy day can handle. And we make it easily digestible. Who do we have today, Melissa?
Well, I'm really excited. We have your friend, Dr. Geeta Maker-Clark, and we interviewed her earlier in the season to talk about her new book, and it's being released on August 11th.
Yes.
It's a really interesting approach to healing, which
We
is,
got to read it ahead of time. It's an
yeah,
amazing book.
yeah, it is. And so she'll talk about the book and what inspired her to write it and all of the things about it that make it great. And some highlights from the book. It'll be great. So, just to give you a little background, Dr. Geeta Maker-Clark is an integrative family physician, educator, speaker, and activist who has spent more than 25 years helping people achieve better health through the powerful connection of food, movement, community, and evidence-based medicine. She is the author of the new book, Medicine for All People, Science and Ancient Wisdom for Revolutionary Healing. As I mentioned, being released August 11th, 2026. And today we're excited to talk to Dr. Maker-Clark about the ideas behind the book and how they can help us rethink what it truly means to heal.
Yes. And she is such like a little powerhouse. I mean, I say little because she is petite, but she is fabulous. She's an integrative medicine physician. She still treats patients. She's an author. She teaches in the Chicago Public Schools, teaching kids about how to eat healthier. She teaches medical students at the University of Chicago Medical School. She teaches culinary medicine.
Amazing.
And she runs a women's retreat. I mean, she has her hand in lots of different things.
Yeah, very
She's
exciting.
fascinating.
That's amazing. So
Yeah, she's
enjoy this
great.
conversation.
Enjoy. Dr. Geeta Maker-Clark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Stacy and Missy. It's so wonderful to be here with you.
We are so excited to have you. And before we jump into this beautiful book that you have written, I'd love to have you explain. You wear so many hats. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. I know it's a lot of hats, and it's by design. Because I feel like I'm someone who really enjoys doing so many things and in within medicine and without medicine, but wants to integrate them all. So I've just picked like a flowers in a garden, all the things that I want to do and done them. And it's been a very it's very rewarding life and very busy.
That's beautiful.
But I'm the director of integrative nutrition and advocacy at Endeavor Health. And what that means is I really oversee the food as medicine programming. I've run CME symposiums for the healthcare system that have focused on using food as medicine, and those started way back in 2018. And I also added this part of the title called advocacy because I feel really strongly that people who have been historically excluded from integrative medicine have the opportunity to be in a position to access the best quality medicine that's available. And so that encompasses some of the work that I do in the community. I'm also the co-director of culinary medicine at the Pritzker School of Medicine, University of Chicago. I co-direct with Dr. Sonia Oyola. That is a 11-year-old program now that
Wow.
we were one of the pioneering academic programs in America to start teaching nutrition through the model of a teaching kitchen with a chef. And I also teach a class and founded a class called Food is Power in Chicago Public Schools. And the medical students from the culinary medicine class come with me to co-teach middle schoolers and really bring this idea of food as medicine to kids at a much younger age so that they can start making great decisions about what they put in their bodies.
It's amazing. That's amazing. And you also see patients, and you're also an
I see
author,
patients. And I see patients, and I wrote a book.
and you wrote a book. Like it's no
Excellent.
big deal.
I
And you have
love
a
it.
retreat. You have a women's
And I
retreat.
have a women's health retreat, yes. And I run a beautiful women's health retreat with my soul sister, Himalaya, in Costa Rica. And that runs every February. And we encompass our historic lineage, our ancestral lineage in Ayurveda that we both grew up with, along with embodiment practices and wonderful nutrition and nature immersion. And that's a great joy. We're in our fourth year offering that.
You
Yeah,
make everything sound so lovely. Like it makes me want to join you on your retreat and come to your culinary medicine class with the med students
I
and come
want
to
to
Yes.
come
teach
to
kids
all of
about
these things.
nutrition.
I want to
Yes.
come. Absolutely. It's all a lot of fun. That's why I do it.
It sounds amazing. So, okay, so you have your new book that's coming out in just a couple of weeks, which I've already pre-ordered, but we had the opportunity to read it, so we were very grateful to do that.
Yes.
It's a beautiful book, Medicine for All People, and it takes a look at medicine and health from a very unique perspective. Explain to us a bit how you introduce us to the concept that health is not just biological.
Yeah. So I think that we've been taught, all of us have been taught for a very long time that health is something that really lives inside of your body, that it's something that we can measure, it's something we can diagnose. I certainly was taught that it was something that I could fix. That to be a doctor is to fix what is broken, is to figure out what's broken and to fix it. And in 25 years of practice, what I've seen clinically and in my working in communities as well is that health is far more shaped by the conditions that we live in, than what's living inside of our bodies. It's shaped by whether you have access to good food. It's shaped by whether you feel safe in your body or in your environment. It's shaped by whether you experience deep connections, personal connections in your life, or if you're under chronic stress. And in integrative medicine, we pay very close attention to these details because they are the whole of the story, actually. And so I can, as there's so many times you can get someone who says, well, my labs all come back normal and my doctor said everything's fine, but they don't feel fine. So this idea that health is solely biological, I think, has been part of the reason that we've been very narrow in our scope in helping people find their way to their own personal health and wellness. I think we need to be zooming way out and looking at those social determinants of health more seriously as the primary factors. And we certainly have plenty of research to back up that your zip code has far more to do with how healthy you are going to be and how long you are going to live than your genetics or any of the other numbers on your lab tests.
Wow, that's such powerful information, especially in a
Yeah.
day and age when I think people are like, okay, I got my 100 grams of protein and I did my 60 minutes of exercise. I'm good. Like it's so
Right.
much more than that. And you teach us that in this
Yes.
book.
Well, and the more we learn about the gut-brain connection and the idea that what's going on in our environment impacts what we think, what we feel, which can then, it's all connected through the rest of our body. The rest of our body feels that. And so that's what's so great about integrative medicine is you consider all of those things. So
That's right.
that's amazing. And you in your book you address the idea of ancestral practices,
Hmm.
and what does that mean exactly, and what should we be doing? Because
Yeah.
everyone's ancestral practices are different, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I think when I am speaking of ancestral practices, I want to be clear that I'm not talking about taking medicine backwards, or romanticizing the past. People did not live as long as the three of us have lived as women, you know, even 5, 6, 8 decades ago. So our lifespans have increased as a result of some of the incredible public health measures and modern medicine measures that have allowed our lives to be healthier and longer. What I mean by ancestral practices is that humans have always known how to live in relationship, not just with each other, but also with food and with land and with rhythm. And those practices, which I speak about in the book, cooking with real food, eating together, more importantly, quite honestly, spending deep time in nature, moving our bodies rhythmically, whether it's dancing or drumming or just, moving in any which way that feels good. And marking transitions with ritual and with ceremony. This is how every one of our ancestors lived, no matter where you're from, right? These are very ancient parts of human cultures throughout the world, and they're not trends. They are patterns for human health that have allowed all of us to get to this point. So what I think is so powerful about them and why I focus the book on ancestral practice is that they're now supported by modern science. And I speak a lot into that because we're catching up to our ancestors. We're catching up to what those real true medicines were that allowed people to survive and thrive. And that is in conjunction with the science that has allowed our lifespans to be longer. So I think I think it's wise for us to look backwards and to dig deep to see what we've lost and how and try to remember, how we can actually get back to some of these very deep, important primal medicines.
And does the book teach us how to do that? Does it explain to us what to do?
It does. It does. I broke the book up into remembrances. So instead of there being a part one, part two, part three, there are remembrance one, two, and three. And again, that idea that we are going back into our deep ancestral primal selves, our cellular selves, to remember what worked for us to be here, what brought us here. And then in each chapter, I focus on a different medicine and, at the end sort of give some points on how one can bring that medicine back into our lives in simple ways, in ways that are accessible no matter who you are and what your resources are, because many of them are free.
Okay. So the first remembrance in the book is nature, food, and plants. Without giving too much away, because we want people to read the book, can you just lightly touch on something that we could pull from that?
Yeah. So in that first part, that first remembrance, medicines of the earth, we're looking at food, plants, and nature. And these have been the earliest medicines that humans have ever experienced, right? None of us can live without any of those things. So, food obviously has been the focus of my career and what most people thought I was going to write a book entirely about food or culinary medicine. And I feel that for me at this stage of my career where food is medicine has now become a movement, and I'm so thrilled to see, all of the national and international focus on nutrition and nutrient density and the importance of real whole food. I also think we've gotten really reductionist and like really microscopic. And like you were mentioning, Stacey, people are constantly asking me like, how many grams of protein do I need a day? Or like, you know, how much creatine do I need to be taking to build this amount of muscle? And those are, important questions. And we've gotten so dialed down that I think we're missing the bigger forest for the trees right now, which is that it's far more important what you're eating over the course of a week, that it's whole, real food that you like and that suits you, right? That suits your digestion, that suits your way of life, that suits your budget. And those are the pieces that even, I too have changed quite a bit in the way that I've counseled patients around nutrition over the years. I think that eating whole, real food with other people that suits your constitution is far more important than following any other kinds of numbers.
I
Oh,
think that's so
yeah,
important what you just said because every time some new fad comes out or someone's talking about, oh, we have to add this,
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't, you eat it and it doesn't feel right in your body.
right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that happens to me all the time, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try this vegetable, that I actually haven't had before, and it just doesn't suit me. And you kind of almost feel bad. You're like, well, everybody's talking about
Right.
beets.
Yep.
Should be eating
Yep.
more beets. And I'm like, beets and me just aren't friends. Like they're just so like they're just not. And so
Yeah.
I think that body awareness is also really important too, to like tap into your own body awareness and to cultivate that awareness so that you can, enjoy your food and the relationship is easy and has ease, rather than struggle and overthinking. That's the last thing that we really need right now in our lives.
Right. And then
Yeah.
there's that whole just people are inundated with so much information and they're like, it's just too much and they just push it away. But if you kind of remind yourself of those, like you mentioned, the forest, eating the whole foods and being social and getting outside. If I'm doing those things, I'm probably doing okay. You can get into the nitty gritty, but most of us aren't even doing a lot of that.
That's right.
So just getting
That's
those basics down.
Plants and nature kind of go together, but plants, I think, are another relationship that our ancestors were very deep with. They were very close to the plants that they lived around and they understood them. They knew where they grew, they knew them well. They had personal relationships with some plants. I mean, many of us can remember our grandmothers or, our elder relatives telling us stories about particular flowers or particular plants that they like to grow and having those personal relationships. And so, again, this isn't about like take this supplement or make sure you're using this particular herb every day, but really about how do we reestablish a connection with plants. And it's quite easy to just go outside and really notice what you're drawn to and start paying attention to what's all around you, to all this medicine that's around you, what you're drawn to. And energetically, often we're drawn to the things that we need the most. And I tell some stories in the book about patients who were drawn to stinging nettle and had stinging nettle growing all through their yard, and they have severe allergies, and stinging nettles are wonderful for allergies. And it's, to me, it's been stories like that that have brought me into a greater awareness of just how much connection and language we have with the natural world that I don't think we pay attention to because we're, up here so much. And we haven't cultivated those relationships because they've been lost along the way. So I think that's an important piece because I think when people think I talk about plants or plant medicine, I'm talking about psychedelics or mushrooms or, necessarily having a herbal practice or botanical practice every day. And it's really can start with something as simple as noticing plants on your daily walks and seeing what you're drawn to and starting your relationship that way.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Whenever I see rosemary anywhere, I have to touch it and smell my fingers because I love the
Oh,
smell you can get from it. So I wonder if that's a thing. Like something in rosemary in my body just
that's
from
Missy's
it.
something.
totally a plant and flower girl, by the way. Like her
I am.
Oh,
undergrad degree is
really?
in landscape architecture. And so like
Oh,
she's a plant girly.
But the more I'm learning about food, because that's not something I educated myself about, the more I'm connecting the herbs and all the things that make food, enhance the flavor of the food, right? I'm connecting that to my love for plants. So that's like the rosemary thing. I'm like always walking. I'll just walk down the street and touch someone's
I mean,
rosemary.
that's huge though, Missy, that you feel that connection, you love the smell resonates with you. So like that's the call to cook with it more, or maybe, get some rosemary essential oil and use it in your shower. It's so good for hair growth. You can
Well,
just,
that's why I've been craving it.
yeah, if there's some hair thinning happening, do some rosemary
Well,
oil massage. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
There's the answer. Well, that's great. Okay. So there's the second remembrance that you talk
Yes.
about, the second grouping. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So the second grouping really revolves around our connections to each other. And so I'm talking about community and trust and gratitude. Community and service and trust. And service I call seva because that's what we call it in Hindi. It's seva in Sanskrit. And it's a part of our value system, to be of service. And it's really the part of the value system of all human beings to be of service. Any of us who are involved in faith-based organizations are usually doing some service with those organizations, no matter what the faith may be, right? Because it's very vital for our faith communities to be helping each other. And it's a primal need that all of us have. So in this remembrance, I'm really focusing on those base connections of community, of being involved in community and combating this loneliness and isolation that's become a true chronic disease of our times. We're seeing that loneliness actually has the same levels of outcomes of people who are chronic smokers in terms of
Wow.
yeah, it's really profound. People die earlier who are lonely and have far more health problems than people who aren't. And most of that is because we have become very isolated, right? And our individualistic frame has kept us from like stopping by at a neighbor's house unannounced or, being part of community circles that are multi-generational. And so sometimes our elders get left out of these, sort of gatherings that younger people are having. And so this chapter really talks about and thinks about how we can help each other be in better community and how it's really upon us to seek community out as if it was our life dependent on it, because it does. It truly does. So if you know someone, who you know is maybe lonely or isolated or who doesn't get out much, I feel like it is up to us to reach out to those people, invite them into things, or give them resources so that they know about things that they can be a part of, groups they can be a part of, gatherings, book clubs, chess clubs, community center work, going for a walk once in a while. These are absolutely imperative aspects of our health that have been really overlooked in a capitalist society that focuses on our individual wealth and also our individual health. And Stacey, you and I know this working in our integrative medicine practice, um, I think we get really dialed down. People get really dialed down on their own personal health. And while that's a wonderful thing, there's so much health to be gained from also, paying attention to those who need your light. And that's where
Yes.
the service comes in as well. I've prescribed service for many of my isolated and lonely patients because that opportunity that they have to be of service and to give of their light is so health giving and so, you know, um, inspiring that it's life changing. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
tried
I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
I'm loving this. You prescribe service.
Yeah.
So oh, I love
Yeah.
that.
There's a story I tell in the book about a teen that I had who was very isolated in her high school environment for a variety of reasons and really didn't like going to school and had a lot of anxiety. And I prescribed for her to work in an animal shelter in the community because I knew that she loved animals. I knew that she loved dogs, and I thought that would be a really fun thing for her to do. And she ended up being so valued there at the shelter. They saw the incredible talent and skill that she had with the animals there. They gave her shifts. She met other people who enjoyed dogs and enjoyed the same things that she did. And she was really able to find a confidence in herself that school just wasn't able to provide her. And so I think there's something very, very powerful in being, sharing your gifts with communities that need them.
Yeah, being part of something.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. And we
that's
all want that. We all want to feel like loved and needed and that we have something to offer.
absolutely. Okay, so the third remembrance is dance, gratitude, and play.
Stacey's very
Anyone
excited to
who
talk about this
knows
with you.
Geeta knows that dance is a very big part of who she is. And I listened to you speak, I don't know, it was probably like a year or so ago at a meeting, and you made us dance and you talked all about dance. So I started dancing because you're like, I prescribe my patients to dance sometimes. So I started dancing every morning. I think it was through winter time, maybe. And I loved
Mhm.
it. I have to get back to it. It changes your day. But I'm going to let you talk about that because you're the
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah, dance is an incredible medicine. And I've been speaking more and more on this around the country because it's such a powerful, quick antidote to everything, honestly. Like it is, we are so built to dance. And again, speaking to ancestral practices, before there were clinics, before we went to doctors, we would gather in circle and drum and dance. There was ritual around harvests, around funerals, around marriages and births. Whenever there was something going on in the community, whether it was grief or joy, we'd come together and dance. And that community gathering and that movement in our body actually trained our brains. Our brains were built around these kinds of experiences such that we be flooded with positive hormones, and positive neurotransmitters. And that gives us the tolerance and the resilience to be able to cope with anything that human life can throw our way. So I remind people there's no such thing as being a good dancer or a bad dancer or like having to learn this choreography or say that you're tango or hip hop or ballet or this or that. If you enjoy those things, by all means, go do that. But as humans, all we need is some music and a rhythm, and our bodies will start to move. And if you have kids or you're around kids, you turn on some music, little kids dance. Like we all did that. We danced when we were like little kids in diapers just bopping around, and then you get socialized out of it, right? Someone somewhere tells you something good, you looked weird, or you somehow get in your head you're not good at it, or there's so much body shaming and self-consciousness as we move into our adolescence, and everyone has their story about their like middle school dance, that was mortifying or whatever. And we've like kind of lost our way from dance. And then now you go to dances and I see a lot of people are just like standing around and like texting or they're not doing what their body actually is really begging them to do, which is to move. And so this is a very deep medicine. And actually the science is showing that dance is the only form of movement out of all of the sports that have been evaluated for risk reduction for dementia. It is the only form of movement that reduces risk of dementia. And this is in a time where we don't have a cure for most neurodegenerative disease. So if there's something we can do preventatively, and it's free and it's fun, and you can do it every day and anywhere, I say this is the medicine of our times, right? So,
Absolutely.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
adding that to the list when people ask me about brain health. I'm going to tell them they have to dance.
absolutely. I'm telling you, it's
Dr.
like,
Maker-Clark says we have to dance.
absolutely, it's the most powerful thing you can prescribe.
So how do we use dance to be neuroprotective?
Well, the great thing is there's not a lot of parameters about it. It just needs to be frequent. Really, it's about frequency. And as far as the length goes, the studies have shown like anywhere from a few minutes to 15 minutes a day. So I have a 5-minute dance prescription that I give to all my patients. And I'm like, you've got 5 minutes. Everybody's got 5 minutes.
For
If you
sure.
happen to have the time, 5 minutes in the morning, this will change the course of your day.
I
This will
love that.
truly change the course
It
of your
lifts the mood.
It
That's what I
lifts
noticed when I did it.
Yes, it lifts the
Uh-huh.
mood and it brings joy. And there's actually a hormone called anandamide, ananda meaning bliss in Sanskrit. And dance is one of the few activities where anandamide is secreted. How wild is that?
Anandamide.
The
Okay.
hormone of bliss. So this is our birthright. Our bodies are built for it, right? And it's really because of colonization that most of us lost our way from that ancestral tradition. But if you look back again, every ancestral tradition, there was a barn dance, there was a circle dance, there was a field dance. I'm Punjabi, I'm from North India. We are farmers, and that we have so many dances that are, based on this big drum, arms up in the air, the Bhangra dance you may have heard. And that's all around harvest and all around, spring and fall and full moon festivals. And so this is our way of connecting to ourselves, but also connecting to earth practices.
That's beautiful.
That's great. That is
Everything
great.
you say is beautiful.
Mm.
I think we got a fan over here.
Thanks, Grace.
Oh, there is that section in there. Why are we wondering what to eat?
Yeah.
And I mean, we related to it, but I think everyone will relate to it because the world is confusing
It is.
in
It is.
the direction we're supposed to go with our food. Why are we wondering what to eat?
There are
Yeah.
books called What Should I Eat? And What You Should Eat.
Right. Why do we need the book?
Yeah.
Why are we confused?
No. And that's why I wrote that section in the book. Like, why are we even wondering what to eat? When you kind of think about it, it's sort of an absurd question, right? Like, why would I ever go to a doctor to ask them what I should eat? When it's such a basic primal need, right? But I think there's a lot of reasons for why people are so confused. And I have been equally confused as a doctor who's constantly looking at the nutritional science and making sure that I'm on top of, what's the latest and greatest in nutritional science. I think the reason why we are wondering about this is because we have been purposefully confused. Industry has gotten so deeply involved in food, right? And not whole food either, usually processed or ultra processed food, even if they're, wonderful things like protein powders or other, collagen powders or wonderful things that we know have been, can be very helpful. It's still confusing to people because they're like, well, can I eat these things, or do I really need to take them separately? And am I eating too much of that? And is that why I'm having this problem? And food has changed. Food has intrinsically changed. So to be fair, we aren't eating the same red meat that our grandparents ate. We're not even eating the same vegetables because the soil is so different. The chemicals that we're using, even organically farmed vegetables, are using chemicals that are different than things that we've been exposed to in the past. So our food has changed, but our biology hasn't, right? Our guts haven't changed. And this new information that's coming through our food is changing our bodies as well. So I do think we're at a critical place, where we can either keep going down this track of sort of making everything more complicated and more reductionist and saying like, really, you need to avoid this and do this and take this, or we can start developing our relationship with real whole food by growing some of it ourselves if we can. Again, going back to relying on farmers and farmers markets and developing those relationships and zooming back out to the simplicity of what it means to eat well. And I can tell you from reviewing, 30 years of nutritional science research, every big study that comes out, I look at, there hasn't been a massive shift at all in what is considered good for you.
Yeah.
It's still predominantly a plant-based diet.
Right.
Yeah.
Marion Nestle's 89 years old, so she's been around for a while. She says, yeah, but largely things haven't changed. What we're telling people to eat hasn't changed. So
it hasn't. Yeah, she's seen it all.
Right.
She's seen it all through many, many administrations. And so in that regard, I try to reassure people, and help to remove some of that confusion that I think can be really paralyzing. To say, like, really trust yourself. You know what's right. Go to that produce section, look at everything, see what you're drawn to, pick a whole bunch of colorful things, and make something maybe from your own ethnic cuisine. Make something that you feel comfortable making, that's easy for you to make, and start from there. Start by making one dish that you can make well and enjoy. And start from there. It doesn't need to be anything more complicated than that. And people think because I run a culinary medicine program and I speak so much on food and I've written this book that I'm like, somehow a really good cook or chef. I am so far from that. So far from that. I love when other people cook for me. I would really prefer not to cook when I, have the opportunity. And I love food. And so I've made a life for myself where I know how to make several really good, simple dishes, and I rely on those. And then once in a while, we fancy things up. But it's not, I'm not having some kind of higher elevated cuisine than anyone else.
Right. That's great. I do the same thing. When I have energy and time, I'll make some really great, curated snacks for myself for the week that have only healthy things in it.
Yeah.
And then there's weeks where I just grab a handful of raw almonds and I cut up some cucumbers and I dip in hummus, and those are my snacks.
Totally.
And so so it doesn't always have to be constant, but being able to identify what you can do in either of those situations is super helpful. And they're usually not that complicated.
Right. It really doesn't have to be.
That's great. That's great. I thank you for that thank you for that. That was a great question.
Right. Because
Stacey.
we put pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
We do.
Especially as women.
We really do. I know.
Because we have to feed so many people.
Right.
Not just ourselves.
Nobody else can feed themselves. Just the women can feed the people. I'm not sure.
Right. That's what it seems like sometimes anyway.
Although before one of our biggest fans, my husband, takes issue with what I just said. He does cook a lot.
He cooks a lot. He's really good at it.
He's very good at it. So I will walk that back a little bit.
Yeah, my husband does too. He cooks a lot and he's quite good at it. And I appreciate, like I said, the meals that are made for me more than any other meals.
Yes,
Sure.
they taste so
That's how
much
I feel about
better.
coffee. I like when someone else makes my coffee. All right, sorry. Next question. So we love the section on plants, the real big pharma, because most people don't realize where a lot of our pharmaceuticals originated, where they come from, because they seem so chemically, derived, and you don't really know, you don't realize they originally came from plants,
Right.
like how we originally got aspirin or antibiotics or antibacterial things. Could you tell us a little bit about what you mean by that? Plants being real big pharma?
Yeah, exactly that. I think when people, sort of scoff at the idea of taking herbs that I'm recommending for them, I remind them that many of the pharmaceuticals that they're already taking are derived from plants and originated with plants. And most people don't know that. And again, I think that separation is why we don't have as much the same sorts of relationships with plants as we once did. Aspirin, comes from willow bark. And back in the day, you would see medicine men and medicine women like making the aspirin from the willow bark and making the tinctures and bottling them for you and giving them to you. And now we've like, there's such a separation from the processing of the plant medicine into these capsules and pills and what have you. So, but so many of the modern medicines that we rely very heavily on and that are the backbone of modern medicine derive from plants. Some of our chemotherapeutic drugs that we use for leukemia and lymphoma come from the African violet. Aspirin, like I said, comes from willow bark. There are so many antibiotics that are derived from plants or grown on mediums that include plants. So we are in relationship with plants as medicine. We just don't realize it. And I think, yeah, I think that's an important piece to, again, this is a book about remembrance of like realizing that the relationship might look different, but it hasn't changed.
But we shouldn't pop an aspirin and be like, oh, I'm taking an herbal.
Right.
Right. Not
Right.
quite, but yeah.
And I do have a quick story that you'll appreciate. So, most of our listeners know that I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I did go through chemotherapy. And just knowing me and the things I am interested in, my oncologist said to me, oh, you'll love this. One of your chemos comes from an evergreen tree. I
Hmm.
was like, thanks. I still don't want
Oh,
to take it, but I did.
yeah. Yeah. I know
Yeah.
there's something somewhat soothing about knowing that things that are helping us are coming from the earth.
Yeah.
And really all of I believe that every medicine that we need to survive is available on this planet. I was really moved by the Artemis trip, the Artemis
Yeah.
expedition to the around the moon recently. I was out of the country for a lot of it, so I didn't follow a lot of the press, but there was a few glimpses I saw of like, the photos they showed of the Earth from space. And it was so moving to me because I thought, look at this beautiful, beautiful planet that we live on that has everything we need. All the water and the air, the trees, the mushrooms, the soil. It's extraordinary. And I felt like how could there be anything that we need to make beyond what this incredible planet has already provided for us? So again, I think we don't know. We have to cultivate those relationships with our earth and with our planet and what's around us to truly be able to find the ways that we can best heal. Medicine does its best work, conventional medicine as well as ancestral medicine, when we are like in relationship with earth and land and nature.
That's
But
beautiful.
and speaking of conventional medicine, you do talk about the importance of modern medicine in our lives, so that even though we're reaching back, right, into things to remember what really are things that can keep us healthy that we have access to. It's not you're not talking about, let's just drop everything right now and go back in time because it was better
No.
then, right?
Oh no, absolutely not. No, I'm trained in conventional medicine. I went to a great medical school, did a very rigorous residency in family medicine and OB, and then I did a couple of fellowships after that. I'm the daughter of a surgeon. I'm the sister of a surgeon. My husband's an emergency medicine doctor. We are deeply steeped in allopathic medicine and believe strongly in it as a family. And I do, uh, as a physician myself, I haven't let go of what I think are the best parts of modern medicine. And this book is by no means a rejection of conventional medicine, because we wouldn't even be, like I said, the three of us wouldn't even be probably at this stage of our lives as vital and healthy as we are if it weren't for those modalities and that incredible wisdom and knowledge. I think that we need, when we go down too far down one path in one tunnel, we can cause more harm than good. And so my hopes are that we can take what's the very best of conventional treatments and also understand that we have so much that is free and accessible and available to us in our ancestral lineages. And the reason this means so much to me right now is because there's never been a time where healthcare has been more inaccessible to people than now. And
Mm,
when you have people who have access to labs and doctors and hospitals and people who do not, then we are not serving the highest good for humanity. So as a doctor, I feel like it is my job, my role, and it was my oath to do no harm. And I want to help people know all of the ways that they can be well, and not just the ways that may be inaccessible for them because they've been historically excluded from power and resources.
wow, that's wonderful. It's wonderfully empowering. Thank you. I hope everybody gets your book then and reads it.
I know it's such a beautiful book. Even just your
Yeah.
prologue is written so well, almost like autobiographical, but like
Mm,
you just like kind of like jump right in to loveliness. It really is so
thanks.
great. Okay, so I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing this story, but you told this great story. I don't know, you were speaking to surgeons, maybe? The doctor with the tattoo.
Oh yeah,
Will you
yeah,
share that story? I thought
yeah.
that that was like a really good, something everyone should hear type of story.
I love that you remember that, Stacey. Yeah, I think it was about a year ago. I was giving a talk at a conference out in Indiana, and it was a Saturday morning, and it was like 8 a.m., which is always a tough time to give a big talk on
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
But I consider myself a pretty engaging and dynamic speaker, but I was doing my thing, and I wasn't seeing a lot of interest in the audience or a lot of engagement. Again, it might have been the time of day or the day itself, or maybe it was the topic. I don't know. It was a conference that wasn't entirely about nutrition. So I was someone who was kind of coming in to give a perspective around food as medicine. And it was a weight management conference, I believe. So that was organized by the bariatric surgery group of this
Mm,
hospital.
mm.
So there were a lot of surgeons there, and I was making eye contact with them and the person who organized it in particular, and I just wasn't feeling that much resonance. But I was just did my thing and finished. And when I came off the stage, that surgeon who organized the talk came up to me and said, that was a great talk, and we'd love to have you back. And I was like, oh, thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. And he said, I want to show you something. And he took me over to the side, and he unbuttoned his dress shirt that he was wearing on his sleeve, and he rolled up his sleeve, and he had a pretty large tattoo from like his wrist to his elbow. And there was a surgeon's scalpel on one side and a chef's knife on the other. And he said, I believe in everything that you said. Food is the strongest medicine. And I was so blown away and moved. First of all, that he has a tattoo. That was a very cool tattoo. And that, he was completely on board before I'd even started talking. And so for me, it was a real reminder to, first of all, to not always like judge the faces of the people in your audience, because people are listening and people are taking in what they can at any given moment, but also that there's so many allies. There's so many people who believe that there's more to health, than taking medicines, and that want more and believe in more. And they're in places that are unlikely. They may be in very unlikely places. So I was really inspired by him. And yeah, and I felt very kind of reassured, that the words had landed well. Yeah,
That's
thanks,
Sure.
nice.
JC, for remembering that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Missy, do we want to move into the questions, you think?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
my
sure.
questions. Because we've been talking for a
Okay.
long time. It's been so
We
good,
have.
Geeta.
It's been great.
All right, go ahead, Miss. Take it
Okay.
away.
Okay. Geeta, we'd like to ask our guests the same final two questions. The first one is, if you could give our listeners one to do, a takeaway from today's talk or conversation, what would it be?
Okay. Ooh, one takeaway from today. I think I would say, just in light and in line with this conversation, that health is not something that you have to chase. You know, take that, take that to do out of your system and out of your spirit. It's something that you can restore. It's something that you can remember and restore in very small and gentle ways every day. And that can be through connection with other people. It can be through your food. It can be through dancing a little bit every day. It can be through being of service to someone or a place that you know could use your light. And I really believe that when we take away this, need for an outcome and need for a specific result, that we can start to restore what it actually means to feel well, um, gently and lovingly.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
That really is. All right, our final question is, we like to say here at the podcast, don't panic, just pivot.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there a small pivot or change that you've made in your life recently that you're willing to share with us?
Yes, yes. That is such a good question and such a good statement. Don't panic, just pivot. So recently, I have been moving very fast, like faster than I would normally like to, just traveling a lot, giving a lot of talks. It's spring conference season, so been on a lot of planes and meeting with a lot of people, and it's wonderful, and it's also exhausting. And the pivot that I've made is to really give pause and space to the transitions. So even if I can't control the pace at which I have to do certain things, I have to be in Salt Lake City, I have to be in Tucson, Arizona, I can still give sacred pause to the transitions before I get on the airplane, before I drink my water, to take some breaths and just to be present in the moments that I'm in. And and those transitional times, there's so many times during the day that we're moving from one thing to another. I think stopping and creating a pause around them has really helped me to keep the pace up that I need to keep right now, but also not be controlled by it.
I love that. That's good advice. That might be my takeaway from
Take a
this
pause.
episode.
Yeah, I
Take
think
the pause.
that's important. Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We're very excited about your book,
Thank you.
Medicine for All People by Dr. Geeta Maker-Clark.
And you can pre-order it. It's available for pre-order.
Absolutely.
And it's coming out August 11th. So
Get your copy.
Yeah,
You're gonna
thank you.
love it.
Thank you. This was such a beautiful conversation. I enjoyed it so much.
thank you for listening to the Digestible Podcast with today's guest, Dr. Geeta Maker-Clark. You can find out more information about Dr. Maker-Clark and about her new book, Medicine for All People, by visiting her website at drgeetamakerclark.com. We will put the website in our show notes. Thanks for listening. Please share us with others. It's the best compliment you can give us. And remember, don't panic, just pivot. The content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not medical professionals, and the views expressed here are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any health conditions. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making any health-related decisions.